Hello. Welcome back, Dr. Silkman. Hello,
Thank you.
everybody. Hello, everybody in chat. Before I let Dr. Silkman loose, and I mean loose because this is a bit of my style, right? We're going to let him have free reign here. But before that, let's just make a disclaimer so that everybody knows we are not accusing or allegations or any of that. Everybody's guilty until proven innocent. We're talking about a trial situation, which is public. And all of that information is public, all of what they put out there, all the evidence. And so we're speculating, we're giving opinion, we're doing commentary. For those of you that just need to be reminded a little bit, we're not lawyers. we're not judging the case. We're not the judge or the lawyers. That's going to be, and we don't get to decide. That's going to be on the jury. We're not trying to influence anything. We're just having a good old conversation because this is a hobby, isn't it, Dr. Silkman? But we're not addicted at all.
None of us are addicted. None of us. It's only a vicious rumor.
Yeah, it's just I just happen to have a great passion for it and then kind of I loved true crime. I loved serial killers and the fascination with the FBI and how they did behavioral science. And then it smacked up with my legal love, and that's what happened with me. Well, you guys really get into it, but this trial, were you ready for this trial?
No, I certainly wasn't ready for this trial, Claire. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me back. I must have been okay the first time round because you invited me back. And
you were more than okay, sir. You are so qualified, entertaining, and charming. Like you could have a spot here anytime. Like they clamored at me to get you back, like immediately. You very, very entertaining. They loved it. And they actually really agreed, and you made them think. And I think they enjoy that. You make them think about what we're looking at. And I think that's important. That's what we all want to do. Have a good, well-rounded discussion, you know?
It certainly is. But I really wasn't prepared for this case. It's gone way and beyond. As you know, Claire, my team, the Foul Play team, we look at the Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey cases. We've spent a lot of time on that. This is on another level. It really, really is. And as you know, the big advantage, Claire, and I've been checking your channel, your streaming. I've checked it for the last couple of days. And watching a trial as it's happening in real time, nothing beats that because you're seeing it as it unravels, as it develops right in front of you. And you can pick up all the nuances as the trial is progressing. It's very different to going back and looking at the trial transcripts like we've done with Brendan Dassey and Stephen Avery. The Alex Murdaugh trial, it truly is so shocking. It really is.
you get to actually see the players in what they were trying. It gives you a little bit more enhancement into what they were actually trying to portray. The transcripts don't always show the back and forth with the attorneys, that this
Correct.
stripe, what they tried to keep out. You don't really get a lot of that, what they tried to keep out, unless you really dig into all the motions back and forth, and you truly try to do that elimination thing. What are they really worried about? Just watching their personalities is so entertaining for me, and their different
Well,
styles. Yeah.
I tell you what, Claire, there's a huge amount of egos in the there's a huge amount of egos. There's lots of testosterone splashing. And, really, when you think about it, these are all high flyers. They've got massive egos. They want to win. Some of them can be very, very aggressive. And it's interesting now, Claire, that we now get to see the defense side, the defense witnesses, etc., etc. And it's the dynamics are very, very different compared to when the state were presenting their witnesses. It's got a very different feel to it, which is
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah, it does. Oh, what was fascinating to me when you talk about the egos, I immediately go and I always picture Hart Pulian standing there trying to tell the judge how the judge can make his life easier, because that's how it should be. Like, can you
Correct,
reduce my bills? Can you save me some time? Can you cut me a
correct.
break here? Like, because I'm all that, and the judge is like, no,
But
no.
I do want to say that Judge Newman, I'm just make sure I got his name correct.
Yes,
He's
it's yeah.
the guy's brilliant. The guy's
Clinton. Hmm.
very, very casual, very laid back, completely different to people like Judge Willis and Judge Fox, who we've got a lot of experience with. And I really like the way he's run the trial. He's very casual, but he likes proper procedure,
Hmm.
format, and he appears to be, to me, like I said, I'm from Adelaide, South Australia, so I'm not from America. I'm looking at it
Hmm.
from the outside, which means that I'm up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I haven't
Hmm.
slept for a week, but you get to see it as it is occurring in real time, and the attorneys for Alex, they're high flyers, right? They're high flyers. The state has got high flying attorneys as well. Lord knows how many millions of dollars this particular
Hmm.
trial is costing. But I believe it is very, very justified because of the magnitude of this case, right? At the essence, Claire, and you'll agree, hopefully agree, it's a double homicide.
Hmm.
It's a double homicide,
Hmm.
right? Now, I hate to say it, but that occurs in America and around the world almost on a daily basis. Would you agree, Claire?
I
You have
would.
double
Mhm,
homicides, you have mass homicides, mass killing, shooting. It does your head in, right? But it goes to show, Claire, it's the nature, the person who's being accused, what he
mhm.
represents, and how vast and multi layered this case is. It's huge,
It is.
absolutely huge.
Mhm. The implications, all of the things that spun off of this was one of the last things that happened, the indictment for the murder. Actually, the all the other stuff was all in the works, about the boat case, about
Correct.
his unfortunate demise of his housekeeper on his own property, the
Yes,
death of a young man that's involved with both of his sons early on, that's still undetermined and under
correct,
investigation. There was a
correct,
lot of shadow around this family to begin with. There's the curse of the Murdaughs, like it was like legendary. They've got
yeah,
all the prestige, all the money, all the connections, and yet all
correct.
this bad luck for everybody around them is
But
like
but isn't it
content.
interesting? Sorry, Claire, to
Mhm,
interrupt. Isn't it interesting how with Alex on the stand, the way he didn't understand the concept that what actually he was earning was a huge amount of income, right? Probably about 10 times the average worker, right? Certainly in
mhm,
Australia, you're not going to earn that amount of money as a normal person. I would dare say same in the US. But
right.
because Alex was used to handling money like candy, he had no concept.
None.
Millions to him were like pocket change.
Mm,
It's a
it
different, it's a different attitude, a different structure.
mhm.
And we can talk about it a bit later.
I think
Alex,
that actually
and
speaks to the jury, doesn't it? Yeah?
Correct.
Because
100%.
those are average Americans. They're from his area that know that that was an extraordinary amount of money.
Correct, correct. And then when you think about it, all the people involved in this case who've worked behind the scenes, all the forensics involved, all the experiments done, the testing done, the crime scene reconstructions, and there's
Mhm.
a whole heap of people from defense that we can talk about as well. But what was eerie, in my opinion, was hearing Alex on the stand. I have never seen anything like it. It
What
is
threw
so,
you?
so
Wait,
scary. It really is so scary.
that's what I want to talk about. What scared you? Like I know what I saw, but I want to hear what you saw. Like
I
Tim, what like starting with them actually calling him up with the whole
it,
thing we decide.
to me, it was like calling up a ghost, right?
Mm,
Because if you notice, Alex was, and we must discuss because now it all makes perfect sense, right? He's the accused.
mhm,
He's sitting between his two attorneys. And what you notice, Alex is not just sitting there with his head down, bowed down.
mhm,
He can get very emotional. He cries a lot, etc. But Claire, what he was doing was incredibly clever. He was following the trial day by day, and he was writing copious notes, just like you and I would do,
mhm,
right? When a witness comes on the stand, what you do is you write down notes. Okay, this person said, she said this, they found this. He was doing exactly the same. And
mhm,
now, Claire, now you know what he was doing. The guy, he's a nomadic. What he was doing was going, okay, and he's got remarkable memory. He's got a photographic memory. He's an extremely smart, intelligent man, right? He ain't no dummy. So what he was doing, Claire, was he was looking at the timeline that all these forensic scientists, whether it was looking at cell phone data, whether it was looking at the suburban, right, or
mhm,
the GPS, what he was doing was in his mind, he was doing mental calculations. And when he was questioned today and yesterday, that's exactly what he was doing. And Waters picked him up on it.
mhm.
Because, oh, you are just simply manipulating and changing your story to suit, aren't you, Mr. Murdoch? And that's exactly what he was doing, Claire. He was
Mhm,
taking a mental note. Claire, what works, what doesn't work.
mhm.
That's exactly what he was doing. A very, very clever. But to
Yes.
me, I must admit, Claire, it was a shock to see him take the stand.
It was very risky in my opinion for him. It may have worked for him somewhat because he did get to say, "I'm a failed human, but aren't we all?" And he kind of played that up. He came right out of the gate and challenged the only bit of evidence that was hardcore that we all agree was that video from the grave that you said Paul sent. And the
Correct.
first thing he said is, "I give up. Yes, I was there. You got me on that one, and this is why I
Correct.
lied." Now the
Correct.
hard part, the one thing that was so frustrating, and I kind of understand the way social media and the regular person looking at it is, they were so frustrating that it took Creighton Waters so long to get from that statement that you lied to blow up his reason as he lied. He didn't do it until the very last question. The very
Correct.
last question, he
Correct.
finally blew it all out. He goes, "No, no, no, sir. Everything you're hitting, point. You're hitting the testimony that everybody put against you by point by point. You're making up
Correct.
stories to get rid of this evidence that you know is against you that looks bad,
Downplay it.
point by
To down
point by
Yeah,
point."
yeah,
Right?
correct, correct. To downplay it and also to trivialize it.
Yeah. And
But,
what does
what
Creighton Waters do? He proves he's a lawyer. He lets the jury watch him lawyer. I'm going,
correct,
look at that. Hello, everybody. Meet Alex
correct.
Murdaugh, the lawyer, not the family man,
That's
not
exactly
the
right.
dad, not the husband. There's the lawyer. There's the cunning, manipulative, get you to think whatever I want you to think lawyer. I
You know
thought
what?
that was brilliant. And nobody, and there wasn't that many people with me on that.
No, no, no,
But
that's what 100%. But basically, now I'm only speculating, but I do believe Now, I'm not going to get into psychology because I know, Claire, you don't like talking about it, and that's 100%. He has narcissistic qualities.
He does. Qualities, absolutely. I'm with you on that. Go
And,
there.
and,
Right.
and so what Waters was doing was he was feeding the narcissist. Now, I must admit, in the foul play team, Claire, we spent one entire year analyzing Mr. Kratz's book from
Hmm.
cover to cover. We did 63 podcasts. We spent 140 hours understanding the man. This now has provided the interrogation of
Hmm.
Alex, has provided a minefield of information to go over. And you watch all the body language
Hmm.
experts, all the linguistic experts, uh, body image, you name it, they're going to analyze everything he did on the stand. I must admit, Claire, it frightened me
Yes.
because he was looking at the jury, and you're
Hmm.
correct. What what Waters was doing? Okay, I'm going to give the approach. I'm going to now. Kathleen Zellner said this to Mr. Kratz. I'm going to unmask you. That's exactly what Waters did. Waters had to go through the layers of Alex, who's a complex character, and bare his soul. And there were so many times, Claire, where I'm just waiting. You should have seen his attorneys. They were going like this. They were silent. They were waiting for him to say, I'm guilty, sir. Take me away right now. But he never got to that point because ego, pride, he could never, ever admit that he had killed. Remember what he said? I hurt the people I love,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And the way Waters had unmasked him was phenomenal. I can't believe that his attorneys must have been having kittens sitting there listening to their client going, "Oh my God, that's it,
Hmm.
we're doomed. We are doomed." And it was very frightening to really get to who Alex was, the
I think
character of the man.
exactly, and I think that character was the perfect example of that display. Is exactly that statement you just said. When Crichton Waters just clearly just brought up what he said, he didn't accuse him of anything, and the lawyer came out, knew what that meant to the jury, and ran circles around just words. I need to answer that. I need to answer that. No, you need to let me finish. I need to explain that answer because he knew the perception
Right?
of it. The lawyer came out and went, "Whoa, whoa!" Like they can't think about that. They can't go there. That would be that would be curtains.
It was
He nearly flew off the stand to try to go
yes,
right to the jury's face to tell them, "Nope, nope, nope. Wait a minute here.
yep,
Back up." Like
yep,
I thought that was quite telling, and I saw the smirk on
incredible.
Crichton Waters' face, and I went, "Good job.
Yep.
You that
This
like you really held it back and let him do that. Like wow."
Yeah, this guy is a professional. If
Hmm.
are we allowed to use harsh language on your channel here?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. Yep.
He's a professional bullshit artist,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. That's not harsh.
Phenomenal. And I'm looking at him, Claire, and I'm getting spine tingling chills, thinking, oh my God, that is the way he viewed his clients.
Hmm.
That is the way he viewed his family. They were chatels. They were there to be manipulated and, like a chess piece, just
Hmm.
moved around,
Hmm.
right? Alex was living a lie that he could not sustain. Do you understand?
Exactly. It's
Money
like a
came
double
in,
life. His insecurity, getting all the money
100%.
he can. He feels better pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. He's got
You got
an
it, Claire.
addiction problem. He's not apologizing for it. He's keeping it.
No,
He admits to it, and then they cut of it to him, and he uses it to get out of stuff. And then he says he's not doing it anymore, and then they find out he is again. Oh, it's there's so much there that this happy family image that the state, I mean, not the state, but the defense kept trying to put out, Alex himself demolished that.
it got destroyed. It
Mhm.
really got destroyed. And I must admit, sorry, Claire, to use the word, but it was almost pathetic seeing him on the stand.
No,
You
that's
know,
a good word for it. It was
you
because he
you
needed
saw
that. Did you see that? He
what?
needed that.
You
Nobody
saw
else needed that. He
no,
did.
Correct.
His attorneys didn't want him there. The state didn't want him there. The jury didn't want to hear from him. They know he's on convicted of murder, and they know it's not in his best interest to talk. And
Correct.
he needed it, and that speaks volumes to me. That is the
Um,
kind of man. Like, whoa.
this Claire, look, like I said, we've studied many, many cases. He needed his soapbox. That's what it
Mm-hmm,
was. The narcissist requires an audience, and that's why he bared his soul. But notice what he was trying to do, Claire. Yeah, I admit I stole this. Yeah, I admit I embezzled this. Yes, I admit I had done this to my own family and to my own
mm-hmm,
friends. But the number one, no, two important points, and we need to discuss it, right? He admitted that he lied on
mm-hmm,
such a critical point in the entire trial. Now, if you're sitting in the audience, if you're sitting in the jury pool, you're going, oh my God, he just admitted he was at the crime scene when he
mm-hmm,
said, right from the bat, right from the get go, right? What did he say, Claire? Hey, my Maggie and Paul went down to the kennels. I didn't want to go. I
mm-hmm,
took a nap. I took a nap, right? And
mm-hmm,
then I got up and I went to go and see my mum, right? So when he got caught in the light, because remember, he's looking at everything in the courtroom. He goes, how am I going to account for this? Look what he did, Claire.
yeah, yeah.
Classic. Kennels? What kennels? He did not want to go to the scene of the murders. At no
Exactly.
at no instant, what he did, Claire, he insulated himself.
Mm-hmm,
He surrounded himself and everything else he did not want to address or touch. And he said one word which was incredibly chilling, Claire. He said, my paranoia. My
right.
paranoia. And I thought, oh my God, you've just now mimicked your son, Paul. Remember what Paul does?
Mm-hmm.
Paul turns into an alter ego on massive consumption of alcohol. Remember what he does with his fingers? And you can see him on video in the boat crash. Alex now has confirmed he's got an alter ego who is paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Claire, this is remarkable. He's now copied his son because people remember the friends of Paul. A
Yeah.
lovely guy, salt of the earth, will do anything. Will walk an old lady across the road, but put alcohol into him, he turns
And
into a demon.
Timmy. Mm-hmm. They had a
And
name for him.
correct, Timmy. And now Alex is saying, my paranoia, my
Mm-hmm.
paranoia. I lied. And look what he said. I don't trust Sled. Remember what he said? I got the name wrong. I forgot the name of the officer. I thought it was
Owen. David Owen. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
correct.
It
So
was some other guy named David, because like all Davids, they're evil. Yeah. Yeah.
correct. But he from the get-go, look, you've just lost your wife, your partner, someone that you slept with for years. You've lost your son, someone that you love. This guy's playing mind games from day one. Mind
Exactly.
games.
And
I
I
never,
think,
I never was there. I never was at the kennel.
yeah, the shocking thing is that they were adequately able to show the jury that there were no SLED officers present when he chose to lie the first time. There was no pressure on him from anyone about anything. He was getting sympathy. He was being talked to, and his first response, his very first answer to "where were you" is "I wasn't at the kennels." No, he chose to lie, which chose to me said two things: he's covering himself totally
Correct,
because he knows what happened, and
correct.
also that he had predetermined and thought about what to say under the circumstances, and it was all he
He,
knew the story, and he
he,
kept proving it to me when he didn't
yes,
have an answer for the 238 steps, because the only thing he rehearsed was "I was getting ready for mom's." So that's the only thing we heard, because he had nothing else to say, because he
no,
can't tell you what he was doing, because that was when he was staging the bathroom and
correct,
hiding things in
correct.
here and taking care of that. He can't really tell you. He's
Correct,
telling us he was calm, but the steps say he was moving faster than any other time that day and
correct.
more often than any other
When
time that day.
when
But he said he just woke up from a nap and was relaxing.
when they do the closing statements, that's where they're allowed to speculate, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, Waters is going to, he gave a hint to Alex. He gave a hint to Alex what he's going to do, right? He's going to go through the entire murder scenario step by step, right? And remember how our last podcast, Claire, we talked about the forensic evidence, and it was a little bit disappointing because I wrote it down here. The forensic evidence was a bust, right? And so it
Mm,
really was not helpful. The blood evidence, SLED, and the analysts made a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors. They did the best they could under the circumstances. But the number one cat who controlled and manipulated the crime scene was none other than Alex. Remember what I said, Claire? He has to have a control. Who could control the crime scene? And the answer is one person. After both Maggie and Paul were killed, there's only one person who could control the crime scene, and it was Alex. This is something that was, trust me, premeditated.
mhm,
Premeditated. He knew what to do, what to manipulate. And think about it. He's in the
mhm,
courtroom. He's in the courtroom. He's listening to all the experts. He's listening to all the electronic forensic data. And he goes, okay, how do I account for what happened? Right? How do I account for what happened? Because, oh my God, my car passed the same area where Maggie's phone was found. How am I going to account for it? So he strategized what he was going to say. But Waters caught him out in so many lies. It's not, and even he admitted, Claire, he admitted, I'm a liar. As soon
mhm,
as he said, I'm a liar, it begs the question, can you trust anything he says?
mm.
And the answer is you cannot.
No,
You
and I think that was the point, and that's why it took so long with Creighton Waters. He did want to get him back to the crime scene, but it was more important because as soon as he decided to take the stand, Creighton Waters knew he was up the hill with the sympathy. Because you can't get a man there who just even just says he's emotionally upset, whether you believe him or not. He's crying on the stand. The fact of the case is that it is his wife that died, and it is his son that died. And he's got
cannot.
reaction, and he's been playing on them the whole time with the shakes and this, and then we've got the side of the road incident where he was supposedly so distraught at the loss of them and what was coming down the pike that he was going to make sure he wasn't there anymore. Now, some can turn that around to say that was guilt and just trying to get away with facing what he had to face.
I,
But
I, yeah,
most people will say sympathy. Most people will feel for him
it,
instead.
well, I think the jury have worked him out. I really honestly do. In the
Hmm.
back of their mind, I look, the state dragged it in terms of doubt, reasonable doubt, to the line. I now start to think it's starting to spill over the line because that the jury actually got to hear him talk. And he even admitted all the fraud that he was carrying out, his opioid addiction, the fact that he created a fake suicide, the fact that he took money from his own family, his own friends, right? And he admitted, I'm a liar. So the jury are saying, "Oh, Mr. Murdoch, when are you actually telling the truth? When are you telling the truth?" But
Hmm.
but Claire, we got another important clue, a very important clue. He said how he got to the kennels,
That's
right,
right.
with the golf cart. And
Hmm.
what did Waters say to him? You had the two weapons loaded up in the back, didn't you? And now I know the mechanism of how he got his wife phone to the car.
Hmm.
He laid it down flat, right? He laid it down flat because when a phone moves up and down, because it's got an accelerometer, it
Mhm.
measures steps. It's not going to have the
Right.
up and down movement if you put it flat on a
Right,
surface.
and that's what they testified to, flat, right. If it was on the seat, it would not have registered, and I was saying that to someone in the chat. They were saying, "No, if he had it with him in the car, it would register." I said, "Not if it was flat." They testified that the new
Correct,
iPhone 14 with the latest update would not have done that unless there
correct.
was something wrong with it. It would more than likely, I think was the term that they say, not register steps.
Correct. Now, remember, my understanding is that Maggie had an older iPhone 11 and
Yeah.
she had iOS 14.6, I think
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
what iOS 14 was the update on the level of the phone. They were talking about the update itself when they said 14. Because
Correct.
I remember the counter expert on the defense side saying he hadn't looked at 14's update yet and he had no idea what they were
That's
referring to.
correct. So, in other
Yeah,
words, he never was able to do a proper reconstruction, right?
exactly. Mhm,
So, the important thing is this, because I'm trying to work it out. I'm thinking, okay, I spend a lot of time on the cell phone data, right? And also the GPS and also the movement of the car. It's scary. It's scary because I've got it written down here. Both Maggie and Paul had to have been dead before 8:53:15
mhm,
because Maggie's phone, the answer to unravel this whole murder scenario is on Maggie's phone,
mhm,
right? Maggie's phone is crucial, right? And that's why they spent time on it. So here's the thing. Now we're only speculating, right, Claire? We're only speculating.
exactly.
After he had murdered both Paul and Maggie, he went up to Maggie and got her mobile phone. And the reason why he got her mobile phone is he had to establish an alibi. He had to establish an alibi. Now, in the case that we study on foul play, Stephen Avery in the afternoon rings up Teresa Hallbark and says, "Look, can you please come on down? I've got an end loader to photograph." Of course, she never answered her phone. Mr. Kratz said, "You were establishing an alibi." Right? Have a look what Alex did here, Claire. All the times that he phoned his wife, and you know what? What's chilling? He had his wife's phone right next to him.
I believe that is true.
No
And
question.
yeah, because of the way the data was, and someone said,
Yes,
"Well, you can." Alex keeps saying you can't prove that. I said that's because Alex knows that he turned his phone into airplane mode and it was no longer
correct,
giving off data, and at other
correct,
times he turned off Maggie so it wasn't giving off data. Because why else would Alex be asking them for that data to prove that they were together
correct.
repeatedly? Like
Well,
not to get away with like you can't prove it. He knows they can't prove it because he knows what he did to detain it. A normal person doesn't say, "Go get the cell data," because it's going to show you that I wasn't anywhere near Maggie's phone when nobody accused him yet of being anywhere near Maggie's phone.
but Claire, I tried to listen to all his interviews that he did, and
He
on the
did.
body cam, I don't hear him mention Maggie's mobile phone.
No, he
He
wants to
mentions
know what
Paul.
they know. He only wants to know what they know. He's not begging them to find the killer. He's not
No,
saying, "Look at this or
no.
look at that." He's
Mm,
saying, "Do you know what do you know? What are you going to tell?" Like he's
correct.
fishing for information
I remember that
constantly.
interview.
Yeah.
Remember that interview. I think it was the third one where he
Mhm.
went with his attorney friend, and the attorney said, "Wait a minute, I thought you were going to tell us what you know." Remember what he said, Claire?
Yeah. Mhm.
We're here to get information. So his
It's like,
wheels are
yeah.
already turning. What do they
Mhm.
know? What do they know? And to his horror, to Alex's horror, the investigator said, "You're not out of the circle. You're not out of the circle. I go where the evidence goes." How many times on foul play do we say we go where the evidence takes us? So
Mhm.
hence, those investigators are not stupid. They're
That's
going,
right.
"All right, who was at the scene of the crime? Who was there?
That's right.
Who
That's what I
kept,
keep saying. Mhm.
who kept on denying he was there?"
The
Alex.
only like you reminded me in our first conversation, and it has stuck with me, and I have repeated it every single conversation. Who had access to the crime scene before, during, and after? Who's still
100%.
alive? And that's Alex Murdaugh. He was there before the crime. He was there during the crime. He was there after the crime. Only
3
Alex Murdaugh survived that.
correct, 3 people were there,
Walked in and one walked out. Mhm,
1 person walked out. So
mhm.
the scary thing is you can actually hear Alex. He wanted to be 100% sure that they were dead, right? That was his
Right.
only concern. Are they dead? Have you confirmed that they're dead? That instead of saying
And yet he
immediately,
said he already did that.
yes, but all these people, if I could just say, the mob crew and True Crime Web, they've
Uh-huh.
done all these reconstructions, and it's amazing. They even said it on during the trial. He never had time. He never had time. Now listen to
To
this,
check the
Claire,
body. Yeah.
to check the bodies. So what does he do? Alex alters his testimony. Oh no, 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 no! I did it after. I did it
That was
after.
after he heard the testimony that he couldn't possibly have done it within 9 seconds.
He never
Until they
had
brought up
time.
and proved that there were only like 9 or 19 seconds,
Yep.
that's when the story changed. When it got too tight,
Correct,
that it was unbelievable.
correct.
All of a sudden, a new story comes out. And Crichton Waters even said, "Isn't that fascinating that now that you know the evidence against you, everything changes?"
So what
Yeah.
he was doing, Claire, he was actually listening to the trial. He
Hmm.
was writing down copious notes. He was having a look at the timeline, and he had to go, okay, I know that this video took place, right? 8:44:55, right? I know when my son's phone stopped responding. I know when my wife's phone stopped responding, right? So he had to make sure, Claire, that he was not there. Oh no, no, no. I had to leave. He even said it, Claire. I
I
had
had those.
to leave. And they're saying to him, why did you have to leave? What was the big rush to go and see your mum who's got Alzheimer's? There was no big rush. Claire, he created the rush. He controlled, remember, he controlled the timeline.
Hmm.
He controlled the time, but he had a problem. He had two dead bodies. Now,
Hmm.
speculation, of course, his wife, his son. He said, I touched my son's phone, but I don't think he had access.
He
Did he have
couldn't
the
get
phone
in.
or
It had locked. Yeah, they said it
not? Right.
locked. Right.
He was terrified that his wife actually took a snapshot, a recording, sent a message to say, I'm being attacked, come and help, whatever.
He
So what
wanted to
he did,
check that phone to see who she talked to, just like he knew Paul had talked to Rogan because he was right there while he was talking to Rogan, so he knew who he
correct,
talked to. But Maggie
correct,
was on the other side of the building, so for that
that's
minute or
correct.
two, he has no idea who she
He's
spoke
got
with.
no control.
And here's the
He's got
he
no control
do
of
you
Maggie,
remember in the
of
testimony,
Maggie.
in the interviews, I believe that they were asking like for Maggie's password. And didn't he say like you can contact her sister or her mother? I'm sure they have it.
I
But then
think
in
so.
this testimony today, didn't he say that he had it all along? That they
Ye
trusted each other that much that he had her password to her phone.
I believe so, and you know what's scary? I haven't worked it out yet, but Maggie accessed Find My iPhone earlier during the day.
Oh. So he
She
might have been looking to see who she was talking to about the money that she was complaining about the receipt that was in the garbage for Gucci. Her charity check had just bounced.
it's a
She didn't want to stay there. She was
no,
giving him resistance about staying there.
no,
Yeah,
no.
he was thinking something was up. Yeah.
So here's the good thing. He's now entrapped himself. He now has admitted going down to the kennels on the golf cart. Therefore, you got flat surfaces, it's mobile, and you can hide your weapons. You can stow your weapons
You could put a
because
top back there too to carry him away in, like when you're done.
100% correct. So you can now tell this is scary. From I've written it down from 8:53:15 to 8:55:32. He's got his wife's phone in his hands. He's got his wife's phone in his hands and he sets it down. It doesn't record any more steps. So when he goes back with the golf cart, all he has to do was take his wife's phone in his vehicle, put it in the vehicle. It's not going to record any steps because remember, it's the up down movements of the accelerometer that registers the step. Now, you try it yourself. I've got an iPhone, right? I did some walkings up and down my corridor holding the phone in
Mhm.
different orientations, and sometimes the steps don't register, right?
Mm.
All these people are going, oh yeah, 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 but how do you explain? Sometimes your phone doesn't work as it's intended to, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to reboot your phone to get things to work. Because it's an older phone, because it's an older iOS, it may not have had all the features as the new versions of iOS have now,
Wow.
right?
Mhm.
So the scary thing is you can map it. You can map what Alex did after he got his wife's phone. Boom, he sets up his alibi. What does
Mm.
he do? He rings his wife, sends text. He's got his wife's phone next to him, next to him. So he knows, it's registered, it's gone through, right?
Mm.
The scary thing is he has now blocked everything out that happened at the kennels. He's blocked it out of his mind. He does not want to go there, right? So what did he say, Claire? Oh, after leaving there, I lied down. I
Right.
this and Water said, you took the most number of steps you ever did. What the hell were you doing going from your room to the house to your car? He
Mhm.
was cleaning up, Claire. He was cleaning.
Absolutely. And the what really stuck out was that he wouldn't talk about it. He didn't even say like things like, "Well, I was looking for my phone. I was probably made some tea. Like I usually go and get a drink, or I went to wash my face, or anything like that." Like nothing. You don't get up from a couch and have that time, and you just don't have a blank about all that time because
No.
he didn't about any other time. He was very good at filling in details when he wanted you to have
Yes.
details, and he
And accept.
conveniently had big blankets. Now, that's not to say a traumatic event like this, and it's a traumatic event whether he did it or not. Let's just be clear. This whole thing on your brain is a traumatic event, as
Huge,
calculating as he is. Okay. So you
huge.
could have some little memory things here and there, but not exactly like this. They look more largely specifically calculated because of how they are. Because what struck me in the financial information, the boring stuff, right? There were certain things that were very intriguing like that. Like, how does a man remember 5 years ago what the person he represented did for a living and his whole family lineage? Where he met him, what their first
Correct,
conversation was like. But when you
correct,
get asked, what was the conversation you had about money? But I just don't remember that. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I don't know. I cannot recall. I
correct,
cannot
correct.
recall. And then
And
when he says to him, you made 2 million in fees on that case, right? And you took that, and he
correct,
goes, yes. And then you had to go and take the other 6,000 that was for the client too. And he's like, yes. And so
correct.
the client didn't get a part of it or a smaller amount. They got bupkis, nothing. Like that's how bad it was. And that's why when everybody says that was so boring, like why do we have to do that? Because of what it actually represents. Yes, he's a bad guy. Okay, financial crimes are not murder. I get that. I'm not dense. I'm not naive. I get that, people. I really do. But the level that he went to as
Huge,
his narcissistic tendencies and his need
huge.
to feed this thing
Now,
about him was borderline to the point that, yes, how could you say he couldn't commit murder if he could do that? He left a quadriplegic with no way to get treatment.
shocking,
He left a father with 6 kids, no way to put them through college and not a scrap to their name. He took Tony Satterfield, who was so innocent and
terrible.
trusting, taking care of his altered brother, having to work for the rest of his life to support his brother in a condition that he's not even prepared to do. He's not a very self confident or well off person, and
No,
left him with $100,000 while he ran off with 4.3
correct.
after fees. Okay. What kind of, how do they not see motive there? How do they not cross the line to what is family then? If you're telling me you loved these people and you could do that, I'm gonna look at you like family's different? Like, what is love to Alex Murdaugh? What does that word mean?
I well, the thing is that it's all about control, power, and
Yes.
he's got a very charismatic personality that people would trust him because he knows how to manipulate an individual. Don't worry, we're going to get a huge sum. Everything's going to be fine. But he ran the show himself. And notice his recall of people's names, what they did, their families, their structures, what they did in the community, who they worked for. He always gave excessive detail, except where it mattered. Kennels? What kennels? I know
Mhm.
nothing about that. I went down there, and what did my head in, Claire, was that he goes, and he was angry. He was angry. He goes, well, later on during the investigation, all of a sudden, the clothes that I was wearing at the tree, the Snapchat video where the tree was falling down, he
Mhm.
goes, my clothes now became somehow relevant. How can that be the case? Hello. Hello.
What do you mean, how can that be the case? You were wearing different clothes when they saw
Correct.
you, then you left the house in, a murder
Correct.
happened on your property, you touched bodies without getting any blood on you. What
Cor-
do you mean
the-
your clothes are gonna be like, come on. Like,
Correct.
what it was is he was hoping that it wouldn't actually be found as missing because I think he is that clever. He knows people like you and I and others, and perhaps half that jury are saying, you know what? I know I'm supposed to pay attention to the evidence they give me, but why is it this other stuff here? And who had access to making it disappear? And who was the only person there? And well, what? Like
Correct.
sometimes what's not there speaks just as loudly as what is.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. That's what I was going to say, right?
I'm sorry to take your words, but that I've been really
No, that's a
focused on that.
that's a fantastic segue, right? Because all the forensic people are going, well, we did all this DNA testing, right? We looked at fingerprints, we looked at DNA, we found blood, we looked at GSR, but there's something missing. And what is that? What is missing? Well, we don't know where the weapons are, right? The two weapons, the shotgun and the 300 blackout. We don't know where the clothing is that Alex wore at that tree, the shirt, the pants, the loafers. So he's actually changed. But here's the important clue. What the investigators were hoping like hell, and you could even hear the guys that were on the scene. Oh, head would have exploded. There would have been brain matter. There would have been high velocity gun spatter, blood spatter. So if Alex was actually close to where the murders took place, there'll be evidence of that crime on him. Do you agree? There'll be
Hmm.
evidence. And SLED made a mistake. They thought, we got the shirt. We got the shirt. There's evidence of high velocity blood spatter. We got him. The trouble is, it was a presumptive test. When they did a proper test to determine the presence of human blood, it came back negative. And it goes to show, Claire, you got 100% correct. It's what is missing from the evidence. So
Hmm.
these guys are doing the forensic test and saying, gee, we actually can't prove he's at the crime scene.
Hmm.
Why? How do we know he wasn't at the crime scene? He changed his clothes. He changed his clothing.
He absolutely did, and he didn't think that anybody would focus on it. He didn't really think that anybody. He did not know that that Snapchat video, the others, the first Snapchat video, was going to be there from Paul. He like is taking it, but he's not registering him what that's going to mean later. It just looks like a happy family, whatever, right? He
Correct.
really didn't think that he would actually. He really thought he could sell this story of Paul was harassed, and this is revenge because of Mallory Beach. But here's the thing. Nobody from Mallory Beach's side of that, nobody that knows anything about it, asked for Maggie and Paul to be there that day. Nobody else knew that they would be there at the kennel at that day. And it's
and
been testified by everybody that it was not that it wasn't unusual, but it wasn't commonplace for Maggie and Paul to be there together at the same time with everybody else. They
yes,
all came and go as they pleased. Paul was all over the place doing everything all the time. He was there because of Cash, because of his friend's dog. He had them there. He went with his father to go see the sunflower thing. That was all normal stuff. But Maggie had to be called there. And the only one who called her there, and the only one who knew she was positively there, was her sister and her parents, because that's where she was staying. Bianca, who does, we have to put her on the suspect list because after all, she qualifies as a 5'2" ninja. Let's be clear. She's little. Okay. So that 3D line that guy put out there, she's just going to have to go on the witness list just because of that. She's going to have to go on the suspect list because of her height. Okay.
correct,
If
correct.
that's what they're going to do, we're going to just say, just put her there. That might be
That
the only reason she's there. I mean, she could have
correct.
killed them with the food that she cooked if she was going to do anything. I don't think she's going to go out there with a gun. But
No,
just to be funny, she's on the list because of height.
it has to be.
But
It
those
has
are
to
the
be.
only people that know that she's there besides Alex.
That's 100% correct. And like I
Okay.
said, someone that can control the outcome, that can control the
Hmm.
crime scene.
Hmm.
That's There's only one person who could do that, Alex. And
And
that's
this,
why when we had a look at the testimony of Mike Sutton, right? He's the one that did all the
oh,
three
yes.
reconstructions. I
Yep.
just about broke my iPad. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, you are trying to reproduce what happens in real life with real guns, real bullets, by using animation and crime scene reconstruction. It's
Hmm.
not going to
18.
work.
Oh, especially when you're going 18 months after the fact and you're making assumptions on bullets. First of all, it took a lot for me to understand that the chicken coop bullets, okay, that aren't okay. To me, the body speaks louder than anything you find in a chicken coop.
Correct.
Sorry,
Correct.
the body tells the story of the murder, and that they did that. Did you notice he didn't challenge any of that? He's
No.
challenging He's challenging SLED's documentation of the chicken coop bullets that
Correct.
did not commit the murder. Okay,
Correct.
let's be clear. Those bullets are innocent of murder. They didn't go anywhere near a chicken or a body. They were in a wall.
And if
And
you know,
yeah,
sorry, Clay, if you notice, Clay, he never put Maggie's body in line to
no,
where
he
the
didn't.
trajectory that he never did that. He
Because
only
he
had a
didn't
rough
want
thought.
that trajectory to be proved as possible to have killed her the way that it did. Because
He-
if you look at that trajectory the right way, and they did, David Fernandez was pretty good about this. So if I put them here, it means this, and if I put them there, it means that, and if I put them over here, it means that. Because that's the truth of it. That trajectory is only as good as where you think the person was standing at the time. Period.
Correct. Correct. And also, the pathologist was talking about the wounds and how Maggie could have had her hand
Uh
in
huh.
front of her tummy, and potentially the bullet could have gone through the hand and also into the torso. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a multitude of possibilities and scenarios. But Mike Sutton boxed himself in by saying, no, 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 the shooters have got to be 5'2", 5'4", no problems. And then the other attorney for the state said, you wait a minute. So if I kneel down on my knee, I'm at the right height. Goes, yeah. Right. So if he crouches down, which is what a hunter would do, that's exactly what you would get. And so, in effect, what Sutton did was interesting. Was it definitive? No, because there's so many variables that take place. Claire, I did a lot of study and analysis on the single bullet theory with the JFK assassination. Let me tell you, once a bullet leaves the barrel of a gun, all hell breaks loose, right? There are so many variables, so many factors. And the shooter was on grass. The shooter could
Oh
have slipped.
yeah.
The grass could have been at a slope. His foot could have slipped and hence positioning the gun slowly. But there's no question what he was doing, presuming that Alex was the killer, he was hunting her down like a dog, dropping her down to her
Right.
knees, circling around her, did the two croup de garde shots, one in the back of the head, boom. He wanted to make sure that she never said a word. Same with his son again.
Mm-hmm.
No witnesses.
Right.
That's how brutal it was.
It was definitely brutal. And that brings me to, like, for the defense witnesses. I'm a little bit shocked. I know that you can pay witnesses to come in and say just about anything you want, but I do think the state did a good job at showing that they only had part of the information anyway. They settled for whatever they got. They didn't ask anything more because
Correct.
that fit the narrative they were told. They were only given certain pieces of it, and they kind of blew apart expert testimony that way because here they are. They're paying $350 an hour for a PowerPoint that could have been
In
presented by
5
a
minutes.
sixth grader.
Yeah.
Yes, that was shoddy work. Like, yes,
You
sorry,
you
that
actually
was
you actually you actually wanna quickly go
comical.
through actually wanna quickly go through the defense witnesses so far?
Sure, go ahead. Start
Let's
with number one. I dare you. If you could chuckle your way through that one.
Mr. Harvey, who's the coroner, right?
Uh-huh.
That was completely a waste of time. That's Mr. Kratz's territory because Mr. Kratz believes that a coroner just comes along the scene and kicks the body to see if they're alive or dead.
Yeah.
That's that
They
that's him.
didn't yell at me. I think they did.
That's Richard Harvey. Putting the hand underneath the armpit.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they're dead.
Okay.
And when do you think they died? Ah, it could be 8 o'clock, could be 9 o'clock, could be
Mhm.
10 o'clock. And the guy questioning goes, oh, it could be 8, could be 9, could be 10. Because what they want is this.
A
They
big
want
window.
Alex out of there for the bodies to be dead. Right? So see, my client, he was nowhere near their bodies when they died. It couldn't have been him. But you know what usurped all of that? The phone records. The phone records.
Mhm.
How can you have, listen to this, and look how clever Alex was. He kept his phone in his house,
Mhm.
whether he turned it off, whether he put the airplane mode,
Mhm.
there was no activity. There was no, think about it, there was no activity in the boundaries in which his son and wife were dead.
And that is what Crichton Waters was trying to get to when he says at 9:06, you really aren't gone yet, were you? Because you
All
were
of a
on your
sudden,
phone calling your wife, and
yep,
your phone wasn't with you, was it?
correct,
Like
correct.
right. It goes, and how did those messages get deleted anyway? I don't know. Wait a minute. Aren't you the one in court, like always presenting this self data, and you're asking everybody for the self data, but like you don't know how the messages got deleted on your phone?
100%, 100%. So you could see the way he set up the ruse. He's
Mm,
not silly. He knows that if his mobile phone was there, they're going to be doing complimentary steps, saying, "Oh,
mhm,
Alex, you were going around with you where your son was, where your wife was. No, 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 no. He kept his mobile phone back in the house, no activity,
mhm.
perfect. Which means, hey, I left my phone there. In other words, you can't corroborate him at the kennels. Do you understand? Because his
Mhm.
mobile phone is not there. He did it
And
deliberately.
it would have been very believable and plausible, based on like how far away the house is from the kennel, that the crime could have happened without him knowing about it, being in the house, and he could have left without seeing them, and that would have all been plausible if it hadn't been for the video placing him at 8:49 right
Correct,
there.
correct. And he
Because
was
Alex
not aware of
himself
that.
made that timeline on when he was available and not available, and he himself set that parameter that Paul blew apart because he made it too close a time for it not to be possible to have been there.
It only leaves a very narrow window of opportunity.
Mhm,
And the only person who could take advantage of that narrow opportunity is Alex himself, right? He even
mhm,
said, I had to get out of there. I had to get out of there. The reason
mhm.
why he had to get out of there is because he killed his son and he killed his wife. When he went out of there, there's one object he took with him, and that's Maggie's mobile phone, right? So it now all makes perfect sense, right? Because during the interrogations, during when the police were there with the body cams, he only mentions his son mobile phone. He never mentions his wife. So think about this, Claire. This is a big cryptic clue. How can Maggie's phone, that's meant to be at the crime scene on her persons, gets dumped in the same location as Alex's car driving past that area?
And slowing down, don't forget that, and then speeding up.
That's right. And
Yeah.
you could the guys on these channels are doing all the reproductions. Just because the screen didn't turn on, right, or determine an orientation, it doesn't mean it didn't happen, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it didn't. You think your mobile phone works perfectly? There's heaps of glitches that can take place.
Mhm.
Sometimes that race to wake, if you pick up your mobile phone directly up, you get nothing. The
Nope.
moment you go like this towards your face and it recognizes your
Then it
face,
does. Right.
then it comes on,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So once he's established his alibi and he goes to Almeida, he drives past and he goes, "Whoop," throws it out. Easy to do.
The way
Easy,
I throw, you probably would have been straight landed anyway. I would have had it flat in my hand like this, and you flick it back with your wrist straight out the
correct,
window. It's
correct,
going like a frisbee, and it just
correct,
falls flat. So why would it do orientation? That's what I
correct.
wanted to say when they asked that, but nobody brought it up. I
You
don't know.
throw it like a boomerang on the side.
Exactly, because I'm driving. I'm driving and I roll down the window and I'm tossing
Correct,
it out. I'm not
correct,
beaning it like a baseball. I'm not
correct,
doing an overhead or an underhanded shot. I'm flinging it with my wrist like a frisbee right out the window because that's what a
correct.
normal person would do.
And it landed on soft turf
Yeah,
and
so
also leaves.
so to me that wasn't a big thing. I can imagine the phone staying locked the whole time. I can
Correct,
because it did not do pick up or it didn't go high low and change its angle so that it would look like you were raising it up to you, which is when they come to light. If it stayed flat and flew through the air, as you know, like when you break them, they do.
correct,
The screen don't light up. Mm.
correct. But you know what will be very interesting? And that'll be when you're looking at the sheets of forensic evidence, what they collected at the kennels. So they would have found obviously Paul's body. They would have noted that he had a mobile phone. I wonder what the sheet said regarding Maggie, right? I wonder what the
Mhm.
sheet said regarding. Did they actually find a mobile phone? They couldn't have. The
They
mobile phone
didn't.
got dumped, right? So
It
in
was
other words,
not, and they were looking for it though.
yes,
They
an
start talking
inventory.
about the phones right away. Yeah,
Yes,
he
an
got nervous.
inventory list. Who's the only person that could have taken that mobile phone out? Alex or 5'2" ninjas. Now, why is a
Mhm,
5'2" ninja going to assassinate a woman, right, in the most brutal way? Take her mobile phone, decide to go to the same road that you go to Alameda, which is the same road that Alex took, and just throw it like a frisbee. And people have questioned, hey, there was an area full of, it was wooded. You'll never find a mobile phone in there unless you use the Find My app.
mhm.
So you notice what Alex did? I'm going to remove an element of the crime scene away from the house and put it away. So someone is thinking, oh my God, two guns, it's got to be
2
two
people.
shooters. Two people. So he was crafty enough to engineer the crime scene. The trouble is, he got caught in a lie.
Yeah, but
He got
that's
caught
the
in a
thing.
lie.
He's trying to make like somebody else was there. There is absolutely no evidence of any other tire tracks, of any other vehicles, of any other footprints, of any other person who was there that would not have been those who are normally there on the farm, normally
Correct,
there anyway. There is absolutely, as much as there's missing the information to nail him, like direct, tangible DNA, guns, the weapon, a video, his fingerprint on a trigger, things like this are all missing, but also is the missing
correct.
of any other person being
That's
able to be
correct.
involved. There is not a text message from somebody saying, "Hey Maggie, hang out there. I'm coming to see you. I got to talk to you about something that's important." "Yo, Paul, I'm coming over." "Oh, your mom's there? Tell her to wait. I want to stay high." Nothing from anybody
No,
like that.
correct,
There is not even threatening messages on Paul's phone if he's being harassed. There's not anything on Maggie's phone about her being threatened and harassed. And yet that was what he put out there. And there is nothing to go
correct.
with it. If there was anything, I might go that way because there's always two sides to a piece of evidence that you taught me too. Two ways to look at almost everything. And
Everything.
we could have applied all of the circumstantial evidence that we have been given and applied it to another scenario with another killer or two involved if there was anything that even nudged us that way as evidence of that person or thing. Besides the trajectory, the green line is the only thing we have. And that's not enough for me. Unless you
Correct.
showed me a bunch of marching midgets that came through like a circus that followed. I don't know.
It's
I don't know.
it's actually embarrassing. And
It,
what did they say? They said that the dogs tend to relieve themselves on
mm-hmm,
the trees at the back of the kennels, right?
mm-hmm.
Those dogs, if they can sense or smell or hear
They would
something
have.
that shouldn't be
Yeah.
there, they would go crazy. And Alex never said, "Oh, after I left the scene, my dogs went crazy and started barking."
He didn't. He didn't even say at 8:49 that anyone suspected was there. And the video actually proves there were no barking dogs. That they were out of control. The only one upset, of course, Bubba was upset. They were trying to get his chicken. I get that. Bubba
But
was playing with his chicken, and
but
they
Claire,
wanted it.
Claire, how insane was this? How insane when he goes, I got the chicken out of Bubba and I put it on the pen or wherever it was and I left. That chicken died in the end. I had to leave. So notice he has to go, oh my God, the video captures Bubba chasing after a chicken. How am I going to insert myself in the narrative? What do you think he did? He goes, oh, I went and got the chicken. No, it was his wife.
I think his wife got the chicken because he was too busy arguing with Paul about whether the dog was behaving or not, and they were
Correct,
going back and forth, or they were arguing about the pills that Paul had just found
correct,
or not, or
correct.
whatever. Because here's, I'd like to speculate. I'd like to ask you, speculative only, your opinion about him constantly saying he tried to move Paul's body. Now, Paul's hands were underneath him. What do you think
Underneath.
Paul had in his hands that Alex Murdaugh was so worried about that he needed to get a hold of?
He needed to have a look at his mobile phone.
But
Right?
his mobile phone was already on the back of coming out of his pocket.
Well, it really it depends
Oh, he
on
said it popped out, but
it
how does
pop
it pop out of your front pocket with all his friends testified he keeps it? You're right. You
no.
think he was digging for the phone? I was wondering if maybe he had a bag of daddy's pills that he was going, see, I
He
can
may
prove it.
he he
Yeah.
may he may have been looking
You,
for the narcotics. He could have been doing that. But remember, he spends what, 50 grand a week? He should have narcotics absolutely everywhere. You know that's bullshit. It
you,
cannot be. It cannot
but,
be. If
but a
you can
bag of them that you can throw in front of your mom to say, see, mom, you're right. He is, because here they are. Like he's lying. It's
correct.
different. Yeah.
Correct. So he could have well been checking to make sure that he didn't have the narcotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So possibly, but he also wanted to check the mobile phone because the mobile
Yeah.
phone could have had
That does make more sense.
he
Yeah.
could have had a record because remember, hey, his son spoke from the grave and nabbed him, right?
Yeah.
Because think about this. This is a scary thing, Claire. If there was no two snapshot videos that day, Alex would have gotten away with the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Because he can say, I never was down the kennels, prove it. And they can't. Whereas the video at the kennels with Bubba chasing the chicken and the dog with the tail,
Mm-hmm.
everything matches. Rogan ringing up, talking, getting the video done. And then all of a sudden, all communication between to Maggie and to Paul stop. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Everything
Here's
stopped.
the I get it. This is a good one though. I don't know if you this one's gonna really make you think a little bit here because Aunt Chair wants us to address what reasonable doubt actually means in this kind of a trial. Some people seem to think it means you have to prove it 100%. I think it means that there's not another probable theory. And you would be correct, Aunt Chair, because many people have been convicted on less evidence of this because there was no other story to contradict what they plausibly put out could happen. They didn't need the actual evidence to prove all the points. You got 10 things that happened. They proved 2. They said, okay, that's reasonable. Here we go. It's just if there's a large enough doubt. If there was footprints that couldn't be accounted for, that's reasonable doubt.
If there was
There's another
any
person.
evidence,
If there
any
was
evidence,
anything, evidence of another gun that the Murdaugh family didn't
yes,
own, then
yes,
then you could definitely say there was enough reasonable doubt to say Alex did not do the murder. And I would
correct,
be with them, even if I think he did it, because I would say, hey, there's that gun there that they can't
correct,
account for. If there's a
correct.
footprint, if there's DNA, if there was
Something that points to
anything,
somebody else.
if there was anything, if there was the dogs going crazy as if something was going on, if a neighbor said, I heard a whole bunch of commotion, the dogs were going crazy, there was cars coming and going, then I heard shots. If we had that kind of testimony, I'd be saying, oh, maybe Alex is right. Maybe somebody did come in retaliation and blow the whole family away.
Correct.
Plausible. But that's exactly, you're spot on. Am I right? I mean, please
Correct.
correct
Correct.
me.
No, no, no,
I'm not
100%.
a lawyer, but that is my understanding of
I
how
don't
these
have the
things
legal
happen.
background, but the thing is that, a lot of cases are tried on just
Mhm,
circumstantial evidence, right? So you have to ask the question. You have to ask the question. The hunting lodge has got lots of weapons. The hunting lodge has got lots of ammunition. They fire weapons, they handle weapons all the time. It's no big deal. So
mhm,
the forensic evidence, in a way, is not that useful because you would expect DNA to transfer from one person to another. You would expect fingerprints. You would expect touch DNA, gun smoke, GSR, all of that. But what you don't expect is a t-shirt and pants and shoes covered in high velocity blood spatter, right? Brain matter, fluids, because it indicates that you were right next to where the trigger was pulled. Correct?
mhm,
So look at this. They can't find it, they can't find the weapons, but they did have a 300 blackout, several of them. No one knows where it is. They do have plenty shotguns. Is the one that was used to kill Paul missing? Was it taken away? Right? So here's the problem, because they're family, because they're together, a lot of the forensic evidence is useless. So
mhm.
clean the shirt, remove the pants, remove the shoes, remove the two guns. Done. Done. You're home and hose, except Paul did the video that put Alex at the murder scene. So the question you ask is it two random 5'2" ninjas that just were assassins that came out from the night and then disappeared from the night? Or was it the person who had access to the crime scene with his
Mhm.
son and with his wife and
Exactly.
get access to weapons and
Mhm,
ammunitions in situ? They
mhm,
could have started a private war. That's
mhm,
that's how many weapons that they had. They could have started a private war. So a jurist was going, cheapers. Mike Sutton said 5'2", but how about if Alex had slipped? How about if Alex went in a shooting position on his knee, bang, bang,
mhm.
incapacitated his wife, then did the fatal shots, circled
Wow.
her, bang, bang, done. And the guys from True Crime Web and the
Mhm.
mob,
Yeah.
they did a reconstruction. Both deaths could have happened in under a minute. Under
It could, you know what? And those are pretty high powered weapons, and the destruction that was done. I think even the
phenomenal.
forensic pathologist had absolutely confirmed that it didn't have to take that long. To do that. I've dropped a link down there for everybody in regards to from Investopedia, the actual definition of reasonable doubt. But I did want to bring up other terms that are just as credible in a trial like this, just to give you something to think about. And if I could just have one moment, Dr. Silverman, I think you'll find
Of
this
course.
actually
No,
pretty
no, no.
pretty valuable. There are other standards of proof besides beyond a reasonable doubt. Probable cause, reasonable belief, and reasonable suspicion are all valid in criminal charges. So is credible evidence that what you think happened actually happened. Evidence that is deemed worthy of being presented in a court or a jury is credible evidence, all of it, including circumstantial. Reasonable belief and reasonable suspicion, a reasonable presumption by an officer that a crime was or will be committed. That's always been a hunch or an ability to get something in. It is not enough to make somebody guilty. However, it all adds up to how you get there, and it is admissible. Probable cause
Correct.
is the requirement found in the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution that police have more than just a suspicion or a suspect committed a crime before making an arrest, conducting a search, or serving a warrant. That is credible because that happened prior to getting to a criminal case here in a jury. They had enough there to put a scenario together to convince a grand jury that the crime
It-
was committed by a certain person. Now, the bit of reasonable doubt, it is true, But you have to actually get to the part. The judge is going to insist that you get to the fact that you think there's no other scenario that could have happened. That you're beyond, like it, you can't even allow a second guess, and that's true. But there is no constitution. The curious thing is, I want to remind you all, there's no constitutional amendment for it. By the way, we
Correct.
just do it this way. We don't have we have a constitutional amendment about how we charge people, but not about reasonable doubt, which is what allows people to think, well, you've got to be like, you have to have 100, you have to have a murder weapon. No, you don't. You have to have the clothes he was wearing. No, we don't. We have to know they're missing, and the only way that they're missing is that he did something with them. If you can reasonably come up that that is the only reason they're missing, and that's the only one that he gave us, besides the fact that his clothes are everywhere. You've been under investigation for almost 2 years. Why didn't you search for them? Get this off your back. No,
Correct.
because you destroyed them.
Correct. 100% correct. And the other thing that you've got to take into account is when they're looking at the physical evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and you say, "Oh my God, no stippling." There's stippling. Sorry, there's the presence
Right.
of stippling,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that the person who had fired the shots was within 3 feet. Now, you think about it. Who can be that personal to go up to your son or your wife that close that you pull the trigger? And that is someone that's familiar with the
Mm-hmm.
victims, correct? It's not going to
It,
be a random
it,
ninja. It's not going to be
right.
a random ninja.
There would be defensive wounds if a random little. First of all,
That's
it would have
it.
been either laughing, their hands would be up at their face, like, "Oh my gosh, this is hysterical," or they would have been in front of them, like, "Don't shoot me." But their
Correct.
hands would not have been in the casual, non-threatening manners
Down,
that they were in.
down, down. You see your dad. You see your dad with a rifle in his hand. You're Paul's gonna think nothing of it. His dad's a hunter. He's a hunter. What Paul wasn't expecting was for Alex to pull the trigger, right? And it wasn't an accident. Alex probably looked at his son face to face. That's exactly why Waters was saying, "Did you look at the eyes and the face of all the people that you stole money?" I looked at all of them in the face. He would have seen his son
Mm-hmm.
face to face, a father with a son,
Mm-hmm.
3 feet with the
Mm-hmm.
barrel pointing towards his own son. Boom. He was probably about that far away from where he wanted to shoot,
Mm-hmm.
because Paul's arm, the left arm was down. There was no defensive wounds. It just so happened that the bullets went straight through him,
Mm-hmm.
didn't kill him. He staggered a little bit forward, being totally surprised, and his father probably tripped because the angle is severe. Pointed up the barrel, straight up here at the back, blew his top of his head off. Brain
Mm-hmm.
exploded out of the skull, hit the ceiling up above, and fell down. Paul
Yep.
immediately collapsed. His wife, now think about it, his wife Maggie was probably either chasing Bubba or away, right? Paul was killed in the feed room, so he
Mm-hmm.
was entrapped. But his wife was loose, running around. She would have heard the shotgun blast and thinking, "What the hell?" Came running down, and he probably went and got the blackout, 300 blackout from the golf cart, because you could tell there's a foot impression, a tire impression on her leg.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that remarkable? A tire impression. She was probably very close to an ATV, and
Mm-hmm.
he was following her, shooting her, right until she collapsed, and then bang, went for the fatal shots.
And this is why we only see her footprints on the side of the building instead of like
Correct.
somebody chasing her. This is what they were saying, that they was only one set and it was identified as being hers with her flip-flop sandals that she was wearing. Those footprints were clearly identified. They did as best as they could with everybody at the scene. We had sneakers, we had all kinds of work shoes, we
Yeah,
had everything else. But there was only one person wearing some kind of slip-on sandal like that that matched the tread, and that was Maggie. And that's
correct.
reasonable, being that there wasn't a zillion footprints over there. There was just that, and she was
Correct.
over there at the kennel. It was obviously she went that way based on
Yeah.
the alignment of the body. I don't
Yes.
see why they were fighting so much about, like, they couldn't. You didn't say within 100% that those were definitely her footprints. They don't really need to. because
Correct.
there are nothing else there to compare it to or anything else to persuade you from that argument. There's not
Correct.
another set of footprints that look somewhat like it that were some other kind of sandal. There's not anybody else there wearing any other kind of sandal or
Correct.
having the opportunity to do it. And that's what I mean about reasonable doubt. They tried to put a lot on there that you can't trust this evidence, but if there's no other plausible solution for it, like what, why do they have to go through a three-ring circus and spend thousands and thousands of dollars? That's something
Huge amount.
that is pretty clear and obvious from the get-go.
Yes. And then just as a segue, they spoke with Kenneth Zersey,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
the guy the guy who basically has got 1,000 degrees, and he absolutely ripped the way the analysis was done and the forensic analysis and the taking of
Mhm.
the photographs of the feet, etc., etc. And they admitted, look, okay, we didn't do an ultimate thing, but he was brought there to try and destroy SLED and the investigators, right?
Mhm.
So basically, his was, hey, if you're going to do a proper photograph, this is what you need to do to get a
Mhm.
full impression, etc., etc. So, in other words, the witnesses for the defense were all there to be negative. Get it
Mhm.
clear. They're all there to say, what a crappy investigation.
It
And what
didn't
did
really turn out that way, did it?
no, and what did Alex say? I don't trust SLED.
I
I
don't
don't trust
trust
SLED.
that.
I've
He
got
kept saying
paranoid.
that. Mhm.
Yep. So they the way they've gone about their defense strategy, let's attack the investigation. Let's make it so bad that you can't be reliant on any of the results. And then we had Mika Sturgis, who did the
Mhm.
phone analysis, right? But he was
Mhm.
basically getting the data from the state, right? Oh, yeah, it
And
confirms it.
actually, so
Yeah,
did Zercher, and had to admit that he was only given what the defense wanted him to have. That he
correct,
could have, that and the state got him to say he could have had access to everything the state had, but he didn't want it.
correct. And
And
again,
that made it look like he was only trying to prove what the state, what the defense gave him. This is what you want you to look at. This is all you got to talk about. Period. He didn't do a wide range on the whole thing because then he would have found a billion things that they did right.
correct, correct.
Mm,
So again, this is a crime solved by electronics, right?
exactly.
The all the data points that they got from all the mobile phones, including the GPS and also the movement of the Suburban, the car, everything matches. Everything
Hmm.
pattern matches the GPS locations, everything. What is the only thing that doesn't quite fit in? And
Hmm.
that's Alex. Alex, what he was doing
Hmm.
uh, in the house and at the kennels, right? And the fact that he kept his mobile phone either off or in a state where it was recording no steps
Hmm.
at all. So all of a sudden, his phone lights up like a Christmas tree. After the 902 or wherever it was, all of a sudden his phone comes to life because he knows he's now got to get his alibi in check,
Yeah, he
right?
does.
Get
Yeah.
his alibi in check. So
Hmm.
therefore, he goes to see his mum, um, throws the phone at the side of the road, and notice he talks to the housekeeper and bunker to say, "Oh, what about? I
Yeah.
was here for 40 minutes, right? I was here for
Hmm.
40 minutes." And
Hmm.
the shirt, because he knew he had to control all aspects of the crime scene. He had to control everything because he knew
Hmm.
one little chink and he
Is
was
it?
toast.
Well, this is that. That's a good point. That I wanted to bring up something else that I noticed about this. You know that Barbara Mixon was on. They brought
Yeah,
her up, and she is the
yeah,
housekeeper for a really long time, right?
it's
Okay.
correct.
I didn't see her on the witness list.
Okay.
Okay. Until okay, and maybe I missed it, and somebody can point it out, but I didn't see her down there. Okay, and I know the state didn't call her, so I know that it was a
Yes.
defense witness. She's the housekeeper. That didn't become pertinent information because let's be clear. The only pertinent information she gave was a plausible reason for Alex to go in the middle of the night to see his mother when his mother's usually
Correct.
sleeping. And Alzheimer's
Correct.
patients, you don't normally go when they're sleeping, like let them be
Correct.
because she had called them during the day to say that she had been agitated all day and she wanted
Yes.
family to visit. That was
Yes.
the purpose of that whole testimony. Okay.
what if they
But
wanted to
it
establish
shows that Alex was listening to the testimony the whole time, and that
yes,
was a little loophole in his little
yes,
alibi there that he had to seal up.
correct.
Because if they asked, "Why did you go? You never go at 6:30 in the
My
morning.
mother
Why
was
were you
actually
there?"
there. My mother
And
was
my
actually
mother was sleeping. Why were you there? Like, you never go there. Why was it so important you
correct.
had to go? It needed to be filled in. It did, and they at least did that with that witness, right?
Correct. Yes, 100% correct. It's sort of like a character witness, right? Oh yeah, Alex went and saw his mum. Is that extraordinary? Nah. But notice how he all of a sudden was in a big rush to get to
Mhm.
his mum's. Prior to that, he wasn't in a rush, right? The whole idea was to go and check out the parents, right?
Mhm.
Father, the mother, and they said to him, "You rang up your wife 2 or 3 times before you actually left the gates. Why didn't you just simply go around the corner, check out on Alex, check out on Maggie? Because he already knew they were dead.
Could,
He
could.
already
It
knew they
his
were
answer, I believe his answer was, "Well, sell spotty anyway." It wasn't unusual that they didn't answer the call, but it was unusual that they didn't call me back. So that's like made him worried later, which on
correct.
that one, I could see the jury buying that because of the failed calls with Rogan and Paul, Facebook not working, the testimony of both the housekeeper and the kennel guy that the phones often didn't work unless you were in the right place at the right time in the kennel.
Correct.
So,
But
so that's kind of plausible there that they could go with that. Like, eh, I do think he knew what happened because I do think he was there.
but if that
But
was the
I could see the jury saying, "Well, that kind of makes sense why he was calling them." What I don't understand is why he deleted that evidence that he called them after he called them when
yes,
he needed to place that evidence as an alibi when he called them, unless he's just trying to muddy the waters.
correct. Look, it's all the whole thing that he was doing was causing the muddying of the waters, causing doubt.
Mhm.
Causing doubt, causing you to look in a different direction of what he actually was doing, right?
Mhm.
T1 said, how premeditated oh, he thought about it. Remember the haunting words he said? Whoever did it had thought about it for a long period of
For a
time.
long period of
So,
time.
so basically, T1, he had to get the weapons, he had to get the ammunition, and he had to get both victims at the same place at the same time, right? And then he
Mhm.
had to have an alibi. So this wasn't a spur of the moment. He thought about it. Whatever tripped in his head, whatever made him think, tonight is the night where I kill them both. Because remember, was it like 3 days later, all the stuff about the boat incident was going to come to roost? Right? And the scary thing is, Claire, remember what he said? He goes, my finances were robust on the 7th. They were
Oh.
robust on the 7th. So, in other words, even though the dam was going to burst within days, on the 7th, no, I had no problems. That's how we justified it. That's the scary thing. So, T1, yeah, he definitely thought about it. He planned it. You know why he planned it? Because he needed an exit strategy. He needed to get rid of the weapons and the clothing and then establish an alibi. And he did all of them. He did all of them.
Oh, I got another poll coming up. That poll was interesting. People think that he does not have the sympathy of the jury.
Correct. Correct. Because think about it. He'd lost his wife, he lost his son, such a terrible tragedy.
Mhm.
But it was all the chaos that was happening around him that it was all going to come crashing down, right? He bought time. He bought sympathy. What did his law firm partner say,
Mhm.
and the CFO say?
Mhm.
After we got the terrible news, we dropped everything.
Mhm. Yeah, Aaron, I tend to agree with you. Actually, you can disagree about the premeditating. A lot of people, including Dr. Silkman, think it was. I think he had fantasized about it as an out because this is a man that pre-thinks every scenario. Like he fantasized how to get money. He fantasized what would happen if they found out about pills. What do I do in worst case scenario? He had thoughts like this all the time. What it would be like if he didn't have to deal with the family, and the double life that he was leading. In that aspect, I think some premeditation occurred, but I'm sticking with, against the better judgment of everybody else that comes at me, that that first shot was accidental and everything blew up. And I'm staying on this hill until the
Mhm.
jury comes in. I
Okay.
do believe that first shot, that I don't care how bad a shot he is, he was too damn close to miss if he wanted him dead. And I think something
True.
happened between Maggie and Paul and Alex to cause an altercation, and there are guns there, and a shot was fired, and somebody got shot, and then everything blew up from there. Panic, death, murder, everything rolled from there. But I do believe somehow, and also I want to hear from Bubba. I really do, because
Yeah,
Bubba,
Bubba.
Bubba,
Yep.
but did Bubba trip? Did Bubba trip somebody with a gun? Did Bubba, was he going after Bubba with the gun? Did Maggie and Paul try to stop him because they thought he was on pills from attacking the dog for being such a bad dog all along? Listen, I think something really bad happened, but I think that first shot, and mostly because of where it is, and if you're really premeditating and that's your son, you don't want to miss on that first shot because you don't want to look at him again. All right.
No, that's
And
true, but
he was too close, and I don't care what kind of fruit drunk he, first of all, the whole thing about, well, he was an addict and he was like this and that. He was a 20-year-old addict. He was totally functioning and he admits it. He handled that gun just like everybody else. I don't really think
correct,
that plays into it. Okay.
correct.
And I'm just thinking he either tripped, Paul said something to him, Paul came at him aggressively. Something happened to make that gun go off at first, not intentionally.
Although, Claire, remember what the
Mhm.
pathologist said. He said that was
E-
a non-fatal wound, but you had about that much more distance,
And
and
then it's a heart.
he would have blown his heart completely
And
out.
people are telling me he could have been a bad shot, could have been aiming for the heart, and he could have got it. And I say no. I say no. You're that close. You would have got it. Like, I'm sorry. I
It-
just don't believe it. I just don't.
correct. I mean, look,
Mm.
only the only
Oh,
God
oh, right.
upstairs
And
and
the
the
man who
killer
confesses if he ever actually
knows
does. Yeah.
what took place. But you have to admit, what happened with Maggie, she was hunted down.
She was hunted down and
She was
killed due to her
hunted
actions. So either something happened, that she was either going to go after him or he was going to go after her. I can imagine whoever ended up dead, whoever shot that stuff, that she is absolutely upset, going wild. She is a mother and a wife, and this is fanatic. She's already pissed off about money and pills and
correct.
whatever. I'm sure he was just, there was definitely a takedown going on for sure.
Oh,
I
no doubt,
agree with that. I
no
just, the only thing I don't understand is that first shot. I understand with the pathologist. I'm all with the angles. I'm all with who's there. I'm just like, well, how did it happen? I also know that that gun had problems during testing. A
doubt.
gun very similar to it. So I'm thinking that something could have happened quite easily, especially since the second shot, it is my opinion, ended up with him on the ground shooting up. So that
Yes,
even adds to my theory that there was some confusion going on, a whole
yes,
big mess. He's not standing there like sabotaging him and practice shooting at this kid. Something happened and everything went out of control, and there was
right.
pushback, and he got startled. And
Yep,
even the second shot actually makes me more confirmed that the first shot, some type of accident, and then everything just fell into place after that. And the things he'd been thinking about, he just took care of, and it was a solution, and he went with it. He had no choice but to kill Maggie. You don't get to kill
no
Maggie
witnesses.
Murdaugh's son
Yep,
and live to tell about it. He was
right.
going to kill her, or she was going to kill him. She's a
Correct.
Southern girl. She was not going to lay down and let that happen. Not
No, no,
her
no,
pill junkie
no,
husband
no,
who now has money problems and had an affair 15 years ago. No, you don't do that. You just don't do that.
correct. It
Like
was either him or her.
she was going to take him out, and the
Yep,
gun was there, and she could have done it, and he was worried, like, if he was either afraid for his life or getting rid of a witness. Either way, it was the extreme situation. It was everything going crazy at once. I can't see it being that premeditated, except for that he wanted him there. That does bug me, but
but
I have
but
got an answer to that if you want to hear.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's
Hmm.
go, Claire.
Well, he had that meeting that morning about the um the partners, about Jenny
Yeah,
Seckinger finding the chicks,
yes,
and then his
yep,
father went into the hospital. Now, this is in the back of his mind. He also had a conversation with Chris Wilson right around this time where Chris said, I can't cover for you anymore. You told me you had the money. You didn't give it to them. You said all you had to do was straighten it up. I don't understand what's going on. Alex, what's going on? You're my best friend. What'd you do? He's like, what'd you do, Alex? What'd you do? Right? Okay,
correct.
things are coming to a head. Paul sends out a text. Mom knows you got pills, Dad.
Yep,
We found your stash.
yep,
What if it was just a meeting of, listen, there's so much going on. I need you guys on my side. This is what I'm willing to do for you if you just will help me. I will give up the pills. But Paul, I need you to listen to me about the indictment. Don't listen to your mother and just confess to everything. We're going to fight this. We don't have the money to go out. He was going to try to control them about
correct.
everything that was going on.
Yes,
I
yep,
really think the narcissism in the head of the household called a powwow on the two problem people in his life that he had to answer to everything that was coming down the pike. He was trying to lay the groundwork for everything that was coming forward. Get them in, reel them in, get their support. So when all this hits the fan, it won't be so bad. Show
correct,
them how vulnerable I am. Show them how much I need them because that's what narcissistic control freaks do. Okay.
correct,
That's my
correct.
answer. And why hasn't the defense come up with that?
I think the defense, Claire, to be fair,
Why
has to
didn't they say they just wanted to talk about the family problems? That's why they were all there.
correct,
How
correct. But
simple is that?
that it is very simple. So he entrapped them there, right? He entrapped them there.
Mhm.
So I think what the state are trying to do is to show how much of a bad person Alex is, and the fact that Alex even admitted that I love all the people that I've hurt. I love all the people that I've hurt.
He said that. He said, every single person I hurt, I loved. I loved them. I mean, they hurt them. I hurt them anyway.
He was
And
out of control. He was
he was out of
totally
control.
out of
Hmm.
control. The
Hmm.
drugs, the opioids, the money problems, the fact that his son was going to, I'm not sure, he was likely going to go to prison for what he did with the boat incident, Buster, and all
Hmm.
the and himself, bad parenting. It was a, a shit show of monumental proportions.
Yes, it was. So on that, you mentioned Buster, first witness. Do you
Oh,
think he did any good for him? I don't see it going. I think it was just a flash in the pan and did nothing for either side. It was like
no.
Buster was as non-committal as you could possibly be. Like, I'm the good son. I'll say what I'm supposed to say, but you're getting nothing else out of me. Nothing.
No, and that's why I speculated that Alex had a succession plan, that
Mm-hmm.
Buster was going to be the next head of the family in terms of like a lawyer, he's going to carry on with the business,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc. Whereas Paul was the troublemaker, right?
True,
Paul was
because
a
yeah.
rebel.
Mm-hmm.
He was extremely adventurous, etc., etc. Whereas Buster, yes, Dad, no, Dad, yep, I do all
And
the right
and
things.
and and yes, she was the firstborn. Maggie adored him. He was the good one. It's
Correct,
not that Paul was the bad one, but let's just say Paul was living the vicarious life that Alex Murdaugh wish he had. Like, he was young, vibrant, well liked, getting away with
correct,
murder, getting away with
correct.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Buster is a clone of his dad.
Hmm.
Buster
No, the
is
dad that he's supposed to be. See,
yeah,
here's the
correct.
thing. Okay, here's the thing with Alex Murdaugh. Buster Murdaugh is the Alex Murdaugh is supposed to be. If he toes the family line and he leads that thing about being a solicitor and a judge and well respected, and yeah, we got some influence in the family, but the secrets don't come out. Okay, then
Skeletons in the
Paul's over here, the life of the party, being able to
yes,
drink and party. He's got the girls, he's got this, he's got the charisma, he's the other side of Alex, the duality that can get people to do anything. People that look at the girlfriend that he was absolutely horrible to, and she stayed 4 years.
unbelievable.
And he was horrible to her. And he was just fast. Like, she just, when it was good, it was so good. And when it was bad, it was so bad. So the other side of Alex Murdaugh, he's a drug addict and a thief and a liar. And you can't trust him. But there's those two sides of him. He always comes from the well-expected family with the money, and I do the right thing, and I love my wife, and I'd never do like.
He look, he's he's got fatal flaws. His
Mhm,
personality's got fatal flaws. Now on Netflix, there's the documentary of the Murdaugh family that's just on. I urge
mhm,
everyone, chat, check it out because it really spends a lot of time looking at the background, what happened in the boat tragedy, and
mhm,
it looks at all the main characters as well. This
mhm,
is a bizarre family with a long history, and people are terrified of them.
mhm. That's it. They
They are
said that. How
terrified.
many times do you hear that? Not in one documentary, not in 2 documentaries, not in 3. How about in every single documentary? Someone in there says, "You don't mess with the Murdaugh. Nobody talks, nobody
No,
does anything when it comes to the Murdaughs." Like, that's
correct,
it. Because
correct.
it doesn't go well, okay?
No,
And and Alex proved that in confronting the other lawyers on the Mallory Beach side when he heard they were pressing for certain in public in front of everybody. What do you think you're doing? Right to his face,
correct,
finger in his face. Who
correct.
are you to challenge us? What do you think you are doing? Who do you think you are? Like trying to put him back. And look at the hate they have for Mark Tinsley for defending
Shocking.
everybody else against
He's
them.
in this program. He's in this program as well. So it's
Mhm.
definitely worth checking out. Then
Oh,
the other
I have several of them. Someone from the chat sent me like I think I have all of them, all
there's
of the
about 3 or 4.
documentaries now.
About 3
There's
or
the
4.
Low Country, there's the
Yeah, that's the
Murdaugh Murders, and then there's the Deadly Secrets or something like that.
Dynasty
Oh,
and
yeah,
also Deadly
yeah,
Dynasty.
yeah,
It's all good.
Deadly Dynasty.
The other
Well,
the other witness I couldn't believe, Claire, was, Mike Ball. Mike Ball had to be a witness for the state.
you know
He
what?
couldn't
But
even
I actually liked Mark Ball. Here's the thing.
he was
He
good.
actually is the reason I like legal. Because there are lawyers like that out there. He was his best friend. He's there for the defense. He has a mission that, hey, it's not that bad. But when asked the direct question, he wouldn't lie. He wouldn't
Correct.
lie. He
But
wouldn't
but
lie for Alex. He wouldn't
Claire
lie for the defense. He
but
wouldn't
Claire,
let them
rem
skew it, but
true.
he wouldn't lie.
Remember what
Yeah.
he said, Claire? "I've worked here for 34 years. I don't know this man anymore."
He said, "Do you know who he is?" He said, "Obviously I don't. Look what he did." He said it
No.
just like that. "Obviously I don't. Look what he did. Look what he did." Now, does that mean he thinks he killed him? I don't know. But he did actually admit that this man worked with him, was his best friend, and he didn't know him. He
But
didn't
but
know him.
but the
Yeah.
scary thing is, Claire, your next door neighbor might be a serial killer and you wouldn't even know it, and
Which yeah, we've learned that is
they bring you a cup of tea and a cup of coffee and say,
mhm.
"Claire, I made some cookies. Would you like some?" And they
No.
end up years down the track being arrested because I got 20 bodies in under the
Mhm.
stick or whatever.
Who knows? I could have been eating some of those bodies for all I know. Like people
There
are
you
weird.
go.
Yeah, there's
You go.
stories. It's
You
crazy.
go.
But now I think we have one like not Mike Ball. I think we have all of the witnesses. Did we go over all of them? I think we did.
There was Dawes Cook. Um,
Oh yes. Okay. Dawes Cook, who is Alex's attorney for the Mallory Beach case.
yes,
Okay. Really? Do you really think he's his attorney for the Mallory Beach case? You don't think Alex Murdaugh's actually the attorney for the Mallory Beach case? Who has any doubt that Alex wasn't running that show?
correct, correct. And the final, well, there was Tootin Nolan, and also
Yes.
the lady Charlene, who was trying to chat up the
Well,
attorney.
that was
What
very
the
interesting
hell?
because that was actually just about 2 press releases given by the sheriff's office and
Correct,
SLED in unison, and she was actually working for the sheriff's office at the time. They released it saying there was nothing to worry about
correct.
because, like, right, as if they found their man, and the defense was actually trying to say that that meant that they focused on Alex right
Tunnel vision.
away,
Tunnel vision.
but actually, they didn't because Alex wasn't even a formal suspect until August. That's when they told him
Correct,
and they gave him. They actually didn't. That's why the house wasn't gone over head to toe. That's why a lot of things didn't happen because they really were trying to find out who everybody was. Now they had other phone records. It came into evidence when the state
correct,
came up. Through
correct,
theirs, they were willing to say, these are all the other people that we collected information on. We're not just looking at Alex Murdaugh. That's not true.
correct,
And
correct.
she was just laughing it off like, yeah, we made a mistake. It got pulled and we put it out,
And
corrected,
that
because
was
it was the wrong information. Nobody was standing behind that information. So it had to get changed. That's not that unheard of when 2 organizations have to put out a joint statement for number 1.
correct.
And the fact that it got corrected so quickly
Yes,
is in their defense right there. It wasn't days or weeks or months
No,
later. It was
no,
immediately. Right.
correct,
Um,
correct. Yep. I think we've actually covered all of the the defense witnesses, and of course, Alex taking the stand. Oh my God, phenomenal, phenomenal. So yeah, it's like I said, for me, it's been a very big learning experience, Claire. That just because you have forensic evidence, it doesn't mean that it's very,
mhm,
very useful. However, it was the electronic forensic evidence that nabbed him,
it
right?
is.
And like I said, his son took the video at the kennel, and the rest was history. The rest was history. Therefore, you know that now Alex had to engineer a scenario to say, how the hell do I make it fit? And you know how
Mhm,
he made it fit? I immediately left. I immediately left. Why did you
mhm.
leave, Alex? What was the purpose of you immediately getting out of there?
'Cause
Because
mom
he
was upset 7 hours ago. They told me about it, and I gotta go now. Like, 7 hours ago, she was upset, but I gotta go now. Yeah.
correct, correct,
I have
correct.
2 questions for you before we round up, and they're kinda big ones.
Okay.
Because I know we don't have all the evidence yet. I know that there's a psychologist on the list. There's another forensic pathologist on the list for the defense. What they brother. Do you think there's any other plausible scenario they're going to be able to present to give the jury reasonable doubt? Number one, and if you do, what do you think that scenario's got to look like? Like, what do you think they have to do now? Because we're all talking about all of this evidence, and to us, we think it's plausible he did this and that there's no other solution to knock it out. No matter what part of the evidence I look at, it's narrowing down to him and fitting
Complete.
his scenario, and I don't have another story to apply it to because the defense, number one, didn't give me one. But let's remember that's not their job. Their job is just to go against what you say. They don't have to give you the alternative. They just have to say nope, didn't do it, period.
Well, either he can plead insanity because the drugs cooked his brain,
Mhm.
and all the financial pressures. He snapped. He loved his family. Was an Like you said, Claire. It was an accident, right? Now he might be able to explain an accident with Paul, but how the hell is he going to explain
No,
what
he knows he can't get out of murder now, but
it's a double
yeah.
murder? It's a
Mhm.
double murder. If he accidentally shot Paul, right? Or was he setting Paul up for a murder suicide? As in,
Mhm.
oh my God, he
Would he
grabbed.
have to leave the guns there if he did that? Like, come on.
Correct, correct. But the problem is this, Claire. Maggie was killed in
Mhm.
the party. It's a double homicide. But if, say, Alex shot him but made it look like it was a suicide, as his own freaking attorney was trying to allude to, that
Mhm.
was it a suicide? Nah. Because
Yeah,
remember, he tried
and the
to change the
guns got up.
direction.
Bubba got up and took the guns. Yeah, that's
He tried to change the direction of the shot, and I'm there. My
mhm.
God, how freaking desperate are you? Are so either the come up with Alex was not in control of his faculties. His mind was altered by drugs. He was a paranoid schizophrenic. Uh, he had everything came to a head. He panicked. He killed his family.
Mm.
That's the only scenario I could think of. But then again, what it does, Claire, is it shines the light on Alex.
Still.
So
Mhm.
was Alex in control or was he out of control when he had done this double homicide? Put it this way, Claire. Alex knows he's never going to see the light of day. That's why
Exactly.
he wanted his 15 minutes on the soapbox to say,
He wants to clear the family name. I do believe that he really does want to say that that part didn't happen. The story's ugly. You can call
correct,
it ugly, but this didn't
correct,
happen. And that does speak loudly to the jury. I'll give him that. That could be the tipping point right there. That because he's got nothing else to lose, he's got nothing to gain by coming up there and telling all of this to the jury. Nothing. He's not getting out of jail, whether you find him
not-
guilty or not. He won't have a free life. He
but
has to
but
have other motive for saying it, and that's to clear the
correct.
family name.
There's
Mhm.
a big problem. There's a big problem, Claire. Right? If they find him not guilty, that means that there's two 5'2" ninjas running around,
True.
right? two 5'2" ninjas running around, and that's you
But
just
that's why that doesn't relate to me, because if he was so worried about being protected and everything, why is he not making sure Buster was secure? Why is everything like so cool now? How come all of a sudden when he's on trial, they're not worried about their lives anymore? Like how come they weren't trying to find
correct,
these killers so bad?
correct,
Why wasn't the Henley? Why weren't there some private security on Buster and him?
correct,
Like, if
correct,
this is actually, and why wasn't he trying to find out who did it? Why was he still trying to
correct,
settle the case? If he really thought that it was in retaliation for the Mallory Beach case, why did he go head on into that case like a badger against them? Did he
correct.
not think they would come for him and Buster too?
Yep, that's 100%
It
correct.
doesn't make any it doesn't fit
That's why
to
he's not
me.
worried,
Yeah.
Claire. That's why he's not worried, because he's the one that pulled the trigger. If he was truly worried, do you think he's just going to be walking around in public and doing this
Mhm.
and doing this? They will hide Buster for a start. They were saying, "Oh my God, What did his law firm say? We were all scared of our lives. What the hell has Alex got us into? Are we next? Is someone going to come in like a vigilante and take out the whole law firm?" The
Mhm.
only person that didn't care or
Right.
was
Yeah.
worried was who else?
Mm.
Alex.
I gotta write all these things down to see how many of them Creighton Waters actually pulls together for us in this closing statement, because he
See,
hasn't been allowed to actually do an argumentative style
but at the end,
projection to the jury and paint a picture. But all of the things that I'm saying, I think if they're obvious to me, like I want, like I know, like you get all big in your head. You're like, Creighton Waters, let me call you, let me tell you, like what you should be like. Hey, this is what I see. But I'm sure he's on it. What I saw today
100%,
was
100%.
brilliant, and
I
I
had
know everybody was frustrated, but the way he got Alex. It was all Alex. It was let
absolutely
Alex have enough rope to hang himself. It was very
correct.
risky. It was boring. I know he lost the jury at some points. I know he did. But there were key factors where Alex actually showed the lawyer in him and how his brain works and how he was responding to the questions ahead of the time, most of the time, trying to figure out where Waters was coming from. He was trying to stay 2 steps ahead of the argument. And
Yes.
anytime he knew he was in danger, he flipped and looked right at the jury and didn't even look at Waters.
No.
And I'm wondering if they're smart enough to see that this is what a
Well,
lawyer does.
I
Yeah.
I I heard on one of the programs that one of the jurors is wearing a blanket. They don't want
Oh, but
they don't
doesn't want
they
to
don't
look at
wanna
him.
hear they don't wanna look at him. They're wearing a blanket on his head, on her
It's
head.
mhm,
What does that tell you? Imagine looking at him, his eyes directly in front of you. How
mhm,
frightening is that gonna be?
mhm,
Right? But now the defense are in big trouble. The defense are in big trouble because their client got on the stand and said, "Yep, I did this. Yep, I did that. Uh, I
he did look
lied.
quite
I
uncomfortable
lied.
during the whole
I
thing.
lied about the kennel." So the state are going to go, "He's a liar. You can't believe a
Mhm,
damn word. He's nothing that comes out of his mouth." And what Waters will do is he'll step through the entire murder scenario. And you know how he'll do it? With
mhm.
all the electronic records.
True. Yep.
Or I had them in front of me. I was laughing. Yep, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have
Do
said
you
this
think their expert, who they already put on, did enough damage to that?
or their expert. Their
The
the s-
defense's expert, who they
no,
claim to be the
no,
I think it actually hurt them when the actual expert had to admit he didn't have the actual update that's on Maggie's
correct,
phone. And
correct.
I also and do you think that Alex Murdaugh's testimony about the cell data did anything to damage that?
No, but it also meant that Alex was thinking about the cell phone data and the importance of it,
Mhm.
right? As Waters
Yep.
was saying to him, "You're an attorney, you're a lawyer, you do remember crash
Mhm.
investigations
Mhm.
where they get the black box and they
Yep.
extract all the data." So Alex is going, "Holy shit, what's on there that's gonna nab me?"
Right.
Right?
And then he says, "Okay, let me turn it to my defense. Let me tell them, well, I was saying all along you needed to get the GPS and cell phone data. Why would I say that?" And so what does Creighton Waters do? "Oh, let me show you the videos of those interviews. Where did you say that?" Like,
Yep,
no, you were looking for information here. You weren't telling
correct.
us to go find stuff. You were trying to find out what we knew. Like, When
100%
did you when did you say that? Like, when did you say that? And then to prove that he only decided to own up to the kennel video when he
but
had no choice but to defend against everything that was said.
right, but don't you find it premeditatory that he left his mobile phone
Yeah.
either off or in the house?
Mhm.
'Cause that means he's already thought about it. Because he goes, "Holy shit, if I do a GPS location, they're gonna find me at the kennels with my wife and my son.
Yeah,
I'll
they are.
just conveniently leave the phone over
Mhm.
here," which means that he already had been thinking about it, right? How do you then explain after the phone comes back, Maggie's phone comes back, all activity, all hell breaks loose, right? All of a sudden, he's walking around, taking all these steps because he's already planning. What's he doing on Maggie on the
Huh?
phone? He's sending Maggie texts. He's doing calls. He's got her phone right next to him. He's already establishing an alibi. But I
Mhm.
think he only rings his son once.
Only once. And he actually
Once.
rings his son's friend more often than that
Yes,
because he knew the friend was gonna try to contact Paul. But
correct.
who did he not ring? And this is the kind of
Oh,
stuff that
oh,
really gets me.
oh,
Who did he not call? Maggie's parents or Maggie's sister.
oh, because I just thought of something. What was going to happen if you went to Alameda and someone came on the property and found the bodies before he did? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Because he's establishing all this alibi, right? Imagine if they go, his wife's mobile phone's not here. It's been
Isn't
moved. And
isn't that isn't that why he told the kennel guy that, they didn't like he
yes,
would take care of it in the evening? And
yes,
isn't that why CB Rowe had the day off?
yes.
I
So
guess that does go to premeditation on your argument
premeditation,
there.
premeditate because you think,
I still think all right, he may have planned it, but he really messed up that first shot. I'm still going, he didn't like do that right.
look, I
It's just
mean,
not right.
one can speculate, Claire. To me, it's because the humanity in him made him hesitate a microsecond. But
You know what?
remember,
And the psychologist, forensic psychologist, working in forensic psychology, bearded heretic that I talked to, he would agree with you that first shot, he tells me it's not accidental, Claire. Even if he meant to do it, it would be messed up because of his humanity. You cannot
be-
look your son in the eye and shoot him with accuracy. It's just really hard to do. And I'm
uh,
like, okay, like I kind of see what you're saying there. You can't like
come on,
get
Claire.
on spot. Like I'm trying to get there, but I'm just not there yet because of the
Sure,
dog. I'm just fixed on the
sure.
dog. I'm sorry,
But
it's Bubba.
that's true.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the father, who's a hunter, comes
Hmm.
in with a weapon that's loaded and is pointing it at his son. How many rules and laws and regulations have they just broken just there?
Yeah.
So, Claire, his intent was to kill him.
Yeah. Okay.
He didn't do a good job the
Hmm.
first shot, but the second shot, done.
True.
Done.
So, do you think there's enough for him to be guilty to
Yes.
actually come in with a verdict
Yes.
from the jury?
Yeah. Oh,
No
yes.
hung. Okay.
Well, look,
Hmm.
it probably will be 11 guilty and one not guilty. The judge will say, look at the foreman and say, why don't you go back in there, have another think
Hmm.
about it? Why don't you have another think about it? Because look, to the letter of the law, you have to have a presumption of innocence. Right? We do the same thing in the Stephen Avery Brendan Dassey case. You got to have a presumption of innocence. But then when you think what Alex lied about and the strategic nature of lying about not being at the kennels, immediately goes to show Alex does not want to be there. He
Hmm.
doesn't. A protective father wants to be with his wife and child. He
Hmm.
didn't. Now I know the psychologists will have a field day of that one
Oh,
because
he actually thinks he's guilty. He actually looks at him as a guilty person. He actually thinks he's acting like one. We talk just casually. We're not trying to diagnose or anything. We're just talking about like a hobby, like the thing. And
correct. And
he is
every
also in the chats following it here and there, and he
oh
comes up.
awesome.
And
Awesome.
he's like saying, I think there's something here. I think he could be a family annihilator. He did do it. Yeah.
Correct. And when it comes to people's personalities, what they're thinking, it's always controversial. Always controversial. With science, it's normally black and white. I can say, Claire, these are the results. Claire, these are the findings. A psychologist might say, well, it could be this, it could be that. And they'll quote cases. And they say there are similarities. I see many similarities to him and Ken Kratz. The point I was going to make, Claire, my final point, is that they have both addictive behaviors.
Yes, they do. Both of
That's
them.
the key. They have Ken Kratz couldn't help himself. Alex could not help himself.
Yes, it's more what he said and not what they proved that
Correct.
actually, for me, makes him more guilty. And on,
Correct.
on, on that, I would say that this chat, voting 20 votes, pretty much agrees with you that this crime was premeditated and
I
it
think,
has been proved.
I think
Yes, premeditated
quite
and proved.
frightening.
60% of them voted. Yeah.
Frightening. Frightening. Do we
Mhm.
have any other questions in chat, or we're all good?
I think we've been answering them as we go. They all
Oh,
have scenarios that we've been touching on about the gun and things like that. But we're
correct.
working on about 2 hours, and I know you've been working on less sleep too. So I don't want to take you
I
too
haven't
much.
slept
Plus, I
well.
want you to come back when they go to jury deliberations. Like I'm gonna keep you here. Like
You want me to come back to you?
again, yes, I do. Like,
Yes,
do you
for
want me
sure.
to put a poll up and make them prove it? Because I know everybody in that chat wants you to come back if you will. Because I know I do. I
If they want
absolutely
me
do.
back, I'm glad to come back, Claire.
Are you kidding? This is like, if you, I know I'm an avatar, but you might hear it in my voice. I have the biggest grin on my face right now because to talk to somebody that actually saw all of the evidence and everything and actually is looking at all the pieces and coming up with them in a different perspective than me. I live for that. I want to see what you saw because I want to see if I'm looking at it this way, I want to be challenged about what I thought and what I
Correct.
saw so that I can
Correct.
be confident in what it actually means and what I'm actually looking at. Because
Correct.
it's just a hobby, but I want to do it right because I'm like anal like that.
Correct.
But
Correct.
yeah.
And the when I'm taking on a new case, I don't go half measure. I really spend a lot of time on
Oh.
it. Like for example, if I was to do this one super proper, I would go through everything all over again. I'll take 2 weeks on it.
You want me to send you the stuff? Cause like
You send me what
it
you can.
sounds like you're singing my song here. I think that
You
some of
send
the
me what
people
you
that
can
know
because
me really well in that chat are going, that sounds very familiar, Bear. I wonder who does that with every case that they work on.
correct.
Yeah,
And
I
like I
wonder
said, if I could
who.
just plug my team, the foul play team, that's exactly what we do.
No,
Right?
plug them. They're listed in my description all the time. And
Yep.
to be honest, some of your people will say I've been shouting you guys out for months anyway when I do certain cases. When I touched on Avery even lightly, I sent them all to you guys. I said I'm not going to cover it anymore because they're doing such an awesome bang up job, better than I ever could. You need to go there, and that's where we're going to follow it because you guys did such a great job. And
Thank
that's how
you.
I found you guys, and I've been shouting you out ever since. I'm a fan.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, we got a
No.
really good team. Got a really good team, passionate researchers. But this
Mhm.
case here has done my head in,
Yeah,
and it's
this
not
case
over yet. It's not over yet. It's not over yet. You could
well,
not
you know
write it.
what's
You could
yeah,
not write.
your head's not gonna be really done in until we get to the verdict. And if the verdict goes the other way, it's gonna blow us all our minds. We're gonna be like, "What?
If
Like,
he's
what?"
found not, if he's found not guilty, run, hide, because there are
Mm.
ninjas about ready to take you out.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to have a serious talk with that housekeeper.
Put that on a
Yeah.
T-shirt.
Mhm. Yeah.
5 foot 2 ninjas.
I don't. They fell out of the trees. I don't know. They left no footprints, nothing. But that's how ninjas are. Yeah.
Correct.
Mm,
Correct.
yeah. But it is like most of the people in the chat said that the opposite story that they were selling was like unbelievable too. But we do have a date. We have 4 more witnesses to go through, and I'm sure one of them's a forensic pathologist. I think maybe we might get somebody to speak on psychology or therapy on Alex Murdaugh and
That's not
addictive.
my domain. That's not
Yeah,
my
because they're gonna have to actually talk about his unwillingness to talk about certain things. Period.
Correct.
in order to make him believable to the jury. I think that that's going to be part of it. And they also have a head and neck surgeon listed, which has got me curious. And I think
Interesting.
that might be for the Paul's brain being blown off. I think that that is part of Dick Harpoolian's
How
entry
how
wound, exit wound, up or down theory. Like it could be this, but it could be that. Like you don't really know. And she actually said, "Yes, I do, because the body told me, and this is how."
well,
And she
100%
actually walked
correct.
them through it again and said, "This is how the body told me that that happened." You know,
Correct.
but
The what
um,
the whole crime, the whole crime, the anatomy of the crime
mm-hmm.
is on the bodies. You're not going to get anything better than that. And
That's
trust
it.
me,
That's it.
I studied the Kennedy case. The anatomy of the crime is on his body. And they botched that up big time. But
All they
here,
did.
oh my God, the way the pathologist recorded everything, did
Mm-hmm.
everything by the book, worked out the angles, the wounds, direction, state of the art. Unlike,
Mm-hmm.
unlike Harvey, who just went
I
like that.
know. I know.
$2,000, please.
I
Thank you.
know. And I only borrow the rectal from the EMS. I never carry it with me, even if I'm the coroner.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And he really looked dumbfounded when the cross is up there going, but isn't liver temperature like accurate to like whenever? Yes. Didn't the pathology do that and narrow the window down for us? Well, yes, but in his
Correct.
testimony is there's a 3 hour window.
Correct. And the scary thing is, we know the time of death. We know the time of death through the cell phones. We know when their activity all of a sudden stopped,
Hmm.
coincidentally together. We also know when Alex Murdaugh had his hand on Maggie's phone and moved it. Now, you know what would be incredible? Where Maggie's bodies was to where the ATV was is at 53 steps. Wouldn't that
Hmm.
be remarkable? Wouldn't that be remarkable?
I wonder if we're gonna hear that. I wonder if we'll hear that
Someone will
in
do it. Someone will do it. Yep, someone will definitely do a reconstruction on that and say,
I,
"See,
I I mean in like when he's doing his final statements, I want to hear Creighton Water how he thinks the crime actually happened and what Alex did about it,
yep,
because all this stuff that we're saying and what it means, like if he doesn't put words on that for the jury, they may not go there. Like you know what I mean?
correct."
It may not click for them that way.
And
So
isn't
I'm
it
I'm making sure he like I really want him to focus on that stuff that actually he put out there that doesn't actually exist. Because even if they get a psychologist to say like he when he was upset, of course you wouldn't lie from the get-go and then not fix it
no,
after a
correct,
year and a half. Yeah.
correct, correct. That guy that for the defense,
Mhm.
he did a micro analysis of all the events of 8:53:15, 8:55:32, and it's like I pick up the phone because you can see the activity, the movement change,
Mhm.
and if it was Alex, he also pressed the button for Siri.
But
He
here's the
accidentally,
thing.
he
They
accidentally
just
pressed.
asked one question to blow all the way. Is there any evidence of it unlocking as a fox that Maggie activated that phone? No. Could it have been anybody else? Any
Yes,
human could have done that,
yes,
and it could have been a
human
human movement.
human
Any human, anyone
intervention.
with the phone could have made those actions. Is
Yes,
it more likely that someone who didn't own the phone actually did those actions since they weren't answering text? They didn't do face recognition. The camera tried to activate and failed, which
it
means
wasn't
it
Maggie.
didn't get face, would prove it wasn't the owner of
It
the phone.
wasn't Maggie. It
It
wasn't the
actually proved more that it was not Maggie that did it, but they're trying to use it
100%.
that Maggie was alive then, and
Nope,
she's not. And she's
no
not.
chance.
And
No,
also just because it was PowerPoints that say moved, like, oh, that was bad too. Like they paid a lot of money for.
I know, that was bad. That was bad. But you can see the history of the what the mobile phone was doing, right? And like I said, all Alex had to do was check the phone. Does my wife have a photo on here? Is
Mhm.
it because he was pressing buttons? He
Right.
was
He
an
was
he was,
trying to get that
he was-
phone open. But here's
yep.
the thing. He says he has her password, but he didn't get the phone open. Isn't that curious?
Well, the thing is, right? Imagine if he was holding the phone in his hand and someone rang up Maggie or whatever, right? How was he going to explain that? So he had to get the phone, check it, quickly check it, and then lay it flat to make sure it
Maybe
wasn't going up and down for steps.
I actually think he's
Lay it
lying
flat,
about having the password. I think Maggie changed her password.
possibly.
And I think that he's only lying about it now to make it look like they had complete trust. There's no way I killed her because there's no way to test it now that it's been there. They can't go back and say, okay, here's the password and we're going to put it in and see this. Like he's going to say, well, I don't remember it correctly now and this, that, and the other thing. But at the
Correct.
time, I knew the password because that's our trust. And
But
Aaron, I agree with you. I can't wait for the psychologist to come out there and professionally say he was a
yeah,
scumbag, just not a murdering scumbag with professionalism. I can't wait to hear that.
we'll see how it goes.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Any
Thank
last words?
you.
It's been
No,
2 hours flew
oh,
by.
awesome. Like I said, thank you so much, Claire, for inviting me. I really
Uh-huh.
do appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, I've never seen a case like this. I thought Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey was crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but this is on another level of madness.
I have to
Absolutely.
agree. Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there.
All those people that have lost their lives wherever this family goes, death seems to follow them, as they keep on saying
Mm-hmm.
in the trailers. But I want a conclusion now. I want a conclusion. I want to see what they deliberate.
I'm hoping we get it. I actually am hoping we get it and not a hung jury and not have to go through the whole thing again. But it would be interesting. I doubt the state would drop it.
No. I think they'll reach a verdict. They'll reach a
I'm
verdict.
hoping. Thanks again. I'm gonna say goodnight to everybody. Don't forget to go and subscribe to Foul Play and to
Thank
all
you.
of the members over there, and to follow Dr. Silkman and Foul Play on Twitter and everywhere that they are. Interesting, very interesting stuff. If you love this, you can't get better. And come join us again Monday, back for the trial. And also Monday night, we're going to do another true crime update because Marilyn Manson's case just
Oh
went
no.
late again. Oh, I've been following that for so long. But there's more of updates, and I'll probably do true crime on that Monday late in the evening. See you all then. Thanks again,
Thank you.
and I hope you're coming back. You coming back? You tell them you'll be here.
Like the Terminator. I'll be
Okay.
back.
Okay, I like that. You know what?
back.
I don't like Schwarzenegger, but I do like when you say it. That's cool.
Thank
That
you.
is very, very cool. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, everyone in
Silkman. And
chat.
I hope you get a great sleep, a good sleep.
Oh, I need 10 hours of sleep for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Thank you, and I wish it on you. I hope you get it real soon. Have a
Thank
good
you so
night.
much, Claire.
Mhm.
Good evening.